Good day, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Under the Cupola, where I get to come and talk to some of the people who work for the town of Weston or are involved in the town of Weston and help make Weston a great place. If you've heard me do these presentations before, you know my name is Gaumond. I'm the town manager for the town of Weston, and today I am joined by our land use coordinator, John Field. John, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for being here.
All right, great. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
I just wanted to back up. I talk to my dad every day, and he'll call and say, "What are you doing today?" And my favorite response is, "I'm making Weston a better place to live, work, and visit."
Oh, that's great. Does he believe you?
No. No. I'm the land use coordinator. I came into this position as a building official, as a building inspector. I started this work in the early 2000s. I've worked in several small towns. I worked in the town of Boxborough, the town of Concord, then the city of Everett, and then I came here in 2012. I'm trained as a civil engineer. I got into this work in the early 2000s as a result of running into a person that should have retired long ago. And I had a great deal of problems getting him to understand the design that I was forwarding for a client. And at one point I found myself thinking, this is a job that this person shouldn't be doing, but I could do. And after that I started part-time. I worked for the Boxborough town for several years and found that I really liked the regulatory side of construction. I've been in construction my entire professional career since I graduated from college.
So if a builder wants to do a project, whether it's a business or whether it's a home, they need to come before you folks, and you folks look at the plans, look at all the aspects of it, and try to help them make the project work.
Make it work within the context of our local zoning bylaws and the state building code, the state sanitary code, and the fire protection regulations.
So the land use coordinator position that you hold here in Weston, what falls underneath that big umbrella?
Of course, inspectional services, the building, electrical inspections, plumbing and gas inspections, also the conservation commission, the historical commission, and zoning board of appeals.
Great.
We also work with the town planner and the assistant town planner.
So, so when you say inspectional services, like the plumbing inspector and the electrical inspector, these are folks if you have like work in your house that needs to be done, say plumbing work, they will be the ones that will get the permit more times than not.
Correct.
And do the work in your in your house. What protections does that give to a homeowner having that process done that way?
All the protections that one could hope for. The inspectors are trained. They're at the penultimate of their careers. They're experienced. They're professional, and they've been there and done that. So they understand the great need for making sure that the work is safe and complete, and without those inspections and without getting a permit, there's the danger that persons that aren't qualified actually do the work, and not being qualified, they may not know how dangerous their work is.
So we've had the opportunity in my show to meet with both the town planner as well as the conservation administrator. But tell me about the zoning board of appeals. How do they operate? How do they work?
They are a quasi-judicial board. They're appointed by the select board. They work within the Mass General Laws 40, specifically 40A, dealing with the Zoning Act, and they're charged with hearing cases when there's not enough room between, say, a proposed structure and the sideline or property line, or when there's a use that isn't listed in the approved uses, or there's a situation where at one time something may have been legal, like a two-family house that now is no longer legal, and somebody would like to work on that project, they would need a finding from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Do they have a lot of projects coming for them on an annual basis?
They're very busy. They meet at least 3 times. They meet once or twice a month. They'll have 3 or 4 cases each meeting. They issue 30 to 40 special permits and a handful of variances every year.
Yeah, and you said also that you work with the Historic Commission. Tell me about your work with them and what their roles in the community might be.
Sure, they're charged with protecting the architectural, historical, and neighborhood resources for houses that were built prior to 1945. So they hear and determine when work on a house is qualified as being historical. They help to preserve those buildings, make sure that any improvements, any repairs are done in that same context as the original building.
Now, all of these boards and committees, these are all made up of town residents, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so these are residents of Weston who are giving of their time and energy and talents
Volunteers, they're your neighbors.
to volunteer to help make the community a better place.
Right.
Yeah. So, John, tell me a little bit about some of the projects that you and your department have been working on recently, and what the future holds for your department projects moving forward.
So the big news right now are the 2 comprehensive permits, the 40B permits, one on North Ave and the other on Boston Post Road. Their applications have been submitted, and we're working through reviewing those applications. Once they're approved, construction will start. We expect to be working on those projects for several years.
Yeah, and that will bring a number of new units to the town of Weston.
North Ave is 16 rental units, and the Boston Post Road project is 172 units.
So you and your department, you're going to be busy over the next couple of years as you work with not only the developers, but make sure that all the rules of the comprehensive permit are being followed, but also you have to make sure that the plumbing is right, the electric is right, the
Correct.
water, and yeah, so.
The projects are so big that both of the applicants will provide third-party review. We'll perform inspections as we would on any project. However, there'll also be the third-party reviewers looking over everyone's shoulder.
Right. So what about other things that you've been championing? I know one of the things that you've been working with, which I think is a benefit to the residents of Weston, has been this online permitting and permit tracking programs. Tell me a little bit about that. If I'm at home and I want to fill out an application, how would I do that from the comfort of my own bedroom?
That's right. That's a great. It's a great tool to have. You'd go to our webpage, the inspectional services page. You'd create a user account, and then you'd have direct access to the online application system, where it's a series of radio buttons and fill in the box questions, and then also the added benefit of being able to pay online.
Yeah. You also have a very close relationship with the Board of Health, because obviously the building department and the Board of Health has a lot of overlap. Tell me a little bit
Correct.
about that.
So the health department, not only on their private on-site sewage disposal systems concerns, but also the state sanitary code issues, we work hand in hand, making sure that when permits are applied for and applications come in and projects are reviewed, that we're making sure that for instance, that things like asbestos and other toxic or dangerous materials are accounted for in the demolition process, where they don't enter the waste stream without being segregated and handled in an appropriate manner.
Yeah, good. So one of the things that you and your department has to do quite a bit is respond to citizen concerns and complaints or problems that are going on in their neighborhoods, whether from a zoning compliance issue or from just a general inquiry. I'm sure your department gets quite a few phone calls every single day, every single week. Tell me a little bit about your staff. How many people do you have working upstairs at Town Hall that can be there to answer questions on a variety of different things?
So we have the permit coordinator, who's the office manager, and then a staff assistant. We have a full-time town planner, full-time conservation agent, and a full-time assistant town planner / historical commission staff assistant, and me. We also have the 3 inspectional services inspectors that are there part-time. So we field phone calls all day long, and they range from abutters to construction projects that are tired of contractors parking on the street, or tired of contractors that will say start at 7:15 or work until 8 o'clock at night. When we get those calls, we respond, we visit the sites, and we remind the contractors of their obligations to work within neighborhoods. Many of these projects are essentially commercial projects in scale. So a house might take 2 years to build, a 24 to 36 month cycle where there's bound to be interference between abutters and homeowners or residents. So we understand the impact, and we work very hard to mitigate that. We also get calls. July 1st was the start of a new code cycle. So energy efficiency has become a very important concern, and houses have become more and more insulated. So we've been fielding questions for the last 3 or 4 months of how are builders going to comply with those more stringent codes. This is a result of the town meeting in the fall where we approved the specialized stretch code.
Yeah, great. So knowing that you get so many phone calls and emails a year, what are some of the things that, if you could give messages to the townspeople, what are some of the things that you get as most common questions asked of your department?
One of the most common, and it bridges a gap, I think. We try our best to educate, but one of the most common questions is a house will be seen as advertised for sale. And somebody will call and say, can that be subdivided? Or can I add on to it? And a big part of our job is educating, is making sure that when we give advice, it's as accurate as it can be. So what I would wish is those calls are very easily answered if an individual was to spend time with the zoning bylaw, or at least look at our GIS system and look at the map for that particular project, because sometimes the real estate ad will just say 1.8 acres of area, and a lot of people would see that and say, well, I could subdivide that in an area where there's only 40,000 square feet or 20,000 square feet of land necessary. Look at the GIS map and then see that there's not enough frontage or some other constraint.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you, John, for joining me for this today. I really appreciate it, and I thank you for your years of service for working for the town of Weston. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you. I appreciate the time, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. And so that concludes another episode of Under the Cupola. I just want to thank you for joining us today, and I will see you next time under the cupola.